Kwame Asante has spent his whole life working hard. Every morning he woke up before the sun, washed his face with cold water, and walked to the small auto repair shop where he worked as a mechanic. Today was no different. He wiped the sweat from his forehead, his hands covered in grease, as he tightened the last bolt on a client's car. His friend Kojo leaned against a toolbox, shaking his head with a grin. "Kwame, you work too hard," Kojo said, laughing. "When will you finally take a break?" Kwame just smirked and wiped his hands with a rag. "I'll rest when money starts falling from the sky," he said. But just as he spoke, something unexpected happened. A sleek black luxury car pulled up outside the dusty workshop. The air seemed to change. Mechanics stopped what they were doing. Customers turned to stare. The car door opened and a tall, well-dressed man stepped out. His suit was crisp, his shoes polished. He looked around for a moment, then walked straight toward Kwame. "Are you Kwame Asante?" the man asked, his voice deep and serious. Kwame frowned. Who was this man, and why was he looking for him? "Yes," he said cautiously. "Who's asking?" The man didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope, a thick, expensive-looking envelope sealed with gold. "Your father, Nana Ofori, wants to see you," the man said. For a moment, Kwame didn't move. The world around him blurred. His father, the man who abandoned him and his mother, the man he had spent his whole life trying to forget. He looked down at the envelope in his hand, his heart pounding. Was this a joke, a mistake, or was his past finally coming back to change his life forever?
Kwame stared at the envelope in his hand. His heart pounded. His fingers traced the golden seal, the name Nana Ofori written in bold letters. His father, the man who abandoned him and his mother, was calling him after all these years. He wanted to tear it apart, throw it into the nearest gutter and pretend it never existed. But something held him back. His mother, Auntie Ya, watched him from the doorway of their small home. Her eyes, tired but kind, held emotions he couldn't quite read. "Ma," Kwame finally spoke, his voice strained. "Did you know about this?" Auntie Ya sighed and sat down on the old wooden bench outside their house. "Your father," she paused, looking away. "He wasn't always this way, Kwame. Before you were born, he promised to take care of us, but money and power, they change people." Kwame clenched his jaw. His whole life, he had believed his father never cared, that he had walked away without a second thought. "Then why now?" he asked. "Why does he want to see me after 25 years? His mother hesitated. Then in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "Because you were supposed to be the heir, Kwame. He once promised you everything." Silence. The words hit him like a blow. The heir? Then why did they suffer? Why did his mother struggle to feed him while his father lived in a mansion? He looked down at the letter again. He had two choices: burn it and move on, or face the man who had destroyed their lives. Determination in Kwame's voice. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, Kwame made his decision. With the letter tucked into his pocket, he walked through the streets of Accra, his heart pounding with every step. He passed vendors setting up their stalls, children running barefoot, taxi drivers honking impatiently. Life moved on as if nothing had changed. But for Kwame, everything felt different. By the time he reached the massive gates of the Ofori mansion, sweat clung to his back. Not just from the heat, but from the weight of the moment. The gate swung open, and Kwame stepped inside. The air smelled of fresh-cut grass and wealth. Everything was too polished, too perfect. Inside the mansion, Nana Ofori sat on a large leather chair, his presence commanding even in silence. His firstborn son, Kwaku, stood beside him, his sharp suit and cold eyes filled with arrogance. Kwame took a deep breath. This was it, the moment he would finally face the man who abandoned him. Nana Ofori leaned forward, his voice slow and deliberate. you finally came." Kwame didn't bow. He didn't smile. He simply stared, his voice steady. "Why did you send for me?" His father exhaled deeply. Then, in a voice filled with something close to regret, he said, "Because I am dying, Kwame, and you are the only one who can save this family." Calm but intense. Kwame stood frozen. The words echoed in his head. "I am dying, Kwame, and you are the only one who can save this family." His hands clenched into fists. Save this family? The same family that abandoned him and his mother? He looked at Nana Ofori, the man who had lived in luxury while they struggled to eat. His face, once strong and intimidating, now looked older, weaker. But Kwame wasn't ready to feel pity. "You ignored me for 25 years, Kwame said coldly. "Now you need me?" His half-brother Kwaku scoffed from across the room. "This is ridiculous, father. Look at him. He's nothing but a mechanic. How can he save this family?" Nana Ofori raised a hand, silencing him. He turned back to Kwame. "I made mistakes," the old man admitted, his voice strained. "But I don't have much time left. My company, everything I built, is under threat. I need you, Kwame." Kwame let out a bitter laugh. "Why me? You already have a son." Kwaku stepped forward, his eyes burning with hatred. "Exactly. I am the rightful heir, not some street mechanic." Nana Ofori's expression darkened. "Kwaku, you have never been ready for this responsibility. Our business is failing because of your reckless decisions. Investors are pulling out. If we don't fix this, everything will be gone." For the first time, Kwame saw fear in his father's eyes. Real fear. Nana Ofori took a deep breath before saying something that shook Kwame to his core. "I built this company with your mother. Before she left, we made a promise. Our first son would take over. That was supposed to be you, Kwame. But when she left, I let my anger blind me. I pushed you away. I made Kwaku my heir instead. And now I regret it." Kwame's heart pounded. His mother? She was part of this? She never told him, never mentioned that she had once built a life with this man. He took a step back, his mind racing. Was this the truth? Or just another rich man trying to manipulate him? His father's voice broke through his thoughts. "I need you to prove that you belong here. Stay for 1 month. Work in the company. Show me what you can do." Kwaku smirked. "Fine. Let him try, but when he fails, he leaves with nothing." Kwame exhaled slowly. He had spent years fighting for a better life, dreaming of something bigger. Maybe this was his chance. His mother's words echoed in his mind. "He once promised you everything." Maybe it was time to see if that promise still meant something. He looked his father in the eye and spoke the words that would change his life forever. 1 month, no tricks, no lies. If I see any games, I walk away. Nana Ofori nodded. 1 month. Kwaku's smile disappeared. The battle had begun. Kwame had made his decision. 1 month. That was all he was willing to give. As he stood in the massive Ofori mansion, he felt out of place. The polished floors, the golden chandeliers, the expensive furniture. It was all a world away from the garage he had worked in his whole life. His father, Nana Ofori, nodded at his decision, but Kwaku, his half-brother, looked furious. "This is a mistake," Kwaku hissed, stepping closer to their father. "You're really going to trust a mechanic with our legacy?" Nana Ofori didn't respond. Instead, he looked at Kwame and said, "Your training starts tomorrow. Be ready." Kwame lay on a massive bed in one of the guest rooms, staring at the ceiling. The room was bigger than his entire house. The mattress was so soft it felt like he was sinking. He should have felt lucky. He should have been excited. But all he felt was anger. Why now? Why did his father only care when he was dying? Why did Kwaku, a man who had everything, still look at him with hatred? His phone buzzed. It was a message from his mother. "I know this isn't easy, my son, but remember who you are. They may have power, but you have something they don't. Your heart. Don't let them change you." Kwame exhaled. His mother had always believed in him, even when no one else did. 1 month, he whispered to himself. Just 1 month. Kwame stepped into the towering glass building of Ofori Group, the family business he was supposed to help save. He wore a simple dress shirt and trousers, not as fancy as the suits around him, but he didn't care. The employees whispered as he walked past. "Is that him? The lost son? I heard he was a mechanic. What does he know about business?" Kwaku must be furious. Kwame ignored them and walked into the conference room. Inside, Nana Ofori sat at the head of the table, surrounded by senior executives. Kwaku sat beside him, his jaw tight with irritation. "Everyone," Nana Ofori announced. "This is Kwame. He will be working under the company for the next month." Kwaku leaned back in his chair, smirking. Let's see if the street boy can survive in the world of business. Kwame met his brother's gaze, his expression unreadable. He wasn't here to play games. The battle for the Ofori Empire had officially begun. Kwame sat in the Ofori Group's conference room, surrounded by men in tailored suits. Their eyes scanned him, judging. To them, he was an outsider, an unpolished street boy stepping into a world he didn't belong in. Kwaku leaned back in his chair, his smirk never fading. "So tell us, Kwame," he said mockingly. "Do you even know the difference between revenue and profit?" Laughter rippled through the room. Kwame didn't react. Instead, he met Kwaku's gaze with steady confidence. "I may not have spent my life in boardrooms," Kwame said calmly, "but I know how to work hard. I know what it means to build something from nothing, and I learn fast." The room fell silent. Nana Ofori watched closely, his eyes filled with quiet approval. "Let's put that to the test," Nana Ofori finally said. He turned to his secretary. "Assign Kwame to the operations department. I want him to learn the business from the ground up." Kwaku scoffed. "You're wasting your time, father." Nana Ofori ignored him. "Kwame, your training starts tomorrow. Be prepared." Kwame arrived at the company's warehouse, where shipments of luxury goods were being processed. He wore a worker's uniform, blending in with the staff. A middle-aged man with a stern face approached him. "So, you're the new trainee?" Kwame nodded. "I don't care who your father is," the man said. "Here, we work. No special treatment." "That's exactly what I want," Kwame replied. The man studied him for a moment, then handed him a clipboard. "Let's see what you can do." Kwame spent the day learning, checking inventory, managing shipments, even lifting crates. Unlike the office executives, the workers respected effort, not titles. And Kwame? He was ready to prove himself. Kwaku sat in his sleek office, watching the security footage of Kwame working in the warehouse. His fingers tapped impatiently against his desk. "He's actually doing it," he muttered to himself. His assistant entered the room. "Sir, should we interfere?" Kwaku smirked, leaning back in his chair. "Not yet. Let him think he's winning. Then we'll remind him who really runs this company."